Hey Internet, it's RJ. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning into the show today. Now, today's episode, we are talking about student credit cards. So, of course, we'll go over, everything you need to know from what are they, how they work, who they targeted for, the qualifications, some things you need to know. And, of course, we will talk about some recommendations and ways to set yourself up from square one all the way through your journey for the credit and finance. So, if that sounds interesting to you, of course, go ahead, press the subscribe button, and let's get to work. Now, student credit cards have actually come quite a long ways from back in the day. If you remember the old Wild Wild West of it, loan officers would show up to bank or to students, campuses and places like that and just start signing people up. Basically, if you could fog a mirror, you could get a card. And, that wasn't obviously the best way to do it. It's since been refined so much so that, now these are actually, viable products. And as we go through the recommendations, you'll see that a lot of these cards are actually carbon copies of like their regular version. The only thing that really changes is that they're geared at students, and so the underwriting behind them changes, right? Now, of course, banks end up doing this because, banks kind of figured out that, hey, if I get you early, right, and build a relationship with you early, so Bank of America gets you a card and a student checking a card, you're much more likely to just stay with Bank of America, right? And people who don't have money end up growing up to be people with money, right? So you'll stick with them for mortgage and wealth management and all that type of stuff that they offer. And that's kind of why they have them. Now, why would you want to consider them? Well, this actually solves your problem, right? Because you don't have any credit, because you haven't had a reason to get credit, right? And even if you had a reason, no one would really lend you any money. You didn't have that much of an income. So these are a great way to start building credit. You will establish a credit history by opening the account, and then by making your on-time payments every month. Of course, you will end up, building credit history that way. And we'll say we have a full, on the main page of the channel, I have a full section dedicated to 101 and new to the game stuff. So you might want to go through that section as well if you're going down this route, as I will expand on a lot of this. But, functionally, student credit cards work the exact same as regular credit cards. There's not really a difference. Again, it's just kind of they're targeted at a demographic who needs to build credit. So, if there's no real difference, the next question is, well, what qualifies as a student, right? Well, let's take a look at the qualifiers here. And we can see here that, what qualifies is kind of broad, right? So first of all, this is general. So some issuers will require proof, and proof in this case would be like a class schedule. Even your .edu address sometimes gets the job done. But as far as what counts, you're talking about full-time or part-time student, trade schools, grad schools, vocational stuff, anything like that should get the job done. Now, of course, if you're going to school later in life, well, then we kind of just assume that, you're probably better equipped to go after the regular versions of these cards. Now, they don't specify an age range, though, but generally we're talking about like 18 to 22, 24, something like that. Now, there's two age buckets to keep in mind, though, and that is the under 21 and the over 21 for qualification. Now, if you're under 21, from my research, it seems like they're like slightly more strict in the fact that they're going to want to see like income that is your own, so they really mean like a part-time job or something like that, because it's still a borrowing product, right? You're still borrowing money, so you're going to have to pay it back. They want to see some level that you can pay it back. Now, it's probably going to have to be something like a legit job. You get like a pay stub or something like that, so you can show them. Now, in addition to that, if you don't have one, you can get dear old mom or dad to be a co-signer on the account, which really means that, in the case that you default, then mom or dad will be responsible for it. Nothing wrong with that. I think I did that for my first card. I think it was like a $500 credit limit. Parents co-signed for me. No big deal there. Now, if you're over 21, I think you get to play by the regular credit card rules, and the fact that, especially if you're applying online, when you do an application online, they generally just go with stated income, which means you just write in like, yes, I make this much, or I have access to this much. I think that's the word they use. Like, do you have reasonable access to some level of incomes? Again, your credit limit's not going to be that high. Talk about that in a second. So there you go. Now, and again, in addition to that, you'll go through the application. You can go in branch and do it, or a lot of these applications are online nowadays. They should be pretty easy and straightforward. So you'll get issued the card. In the end, your credit limit is not going to be high. You're talking about maybe $500 to $1,000, which is fine because it's more than enough money to build credit with. It's not necessarily this early in the game about how much you have. It's just, again, history and on-time payments. And, over time, there's certain cards will allow you to, upgrade that, and we'll talk about that in a second. So that's really pretty much it, how to get the card. Again, it works pretty straightforward as normal credit cards. Now, again, the slight differences before we get into recommendations here, some of these cards, their perks and benefits are targeted at students, right, or folks building credit. So if we take a look at this, some things that, cards might have. Again, credit limit increase reviews. It's not uncommon for them to say, hey, every 6-8 months we will, end up looking to see if you're eligible for credit limit increase, which is pretty helpful. Now they may have benefits for good grades. I've seen some of them, you turn in report cards or something, they kind of give you like a $20 statement credit perhaps. Benefits for on-time payments is a big one as well, because of course that encourages financial responsibility and things like that. And of course the card may graduate to another version over time, but again, a lot of these end up just being carbon copies of their regular version anyways. But that's one of the perks that they offer, right? So if any of those are interest to you, you can kind of look for those in certain issuers. But with that, let's take a look at some actual examples here, then we'll talk about strategy overall. So again, the major issuers all have these. I'm kind of a fan myself of, Bank of America Customized Cash Card. They have a student version, which basically just lets you pick a 3% category and pick a 2% category, and you can change your category like every month, every quarter if you want, and that's pretty helpful, because you can change, your spend. They have all the major stuff as well. Capital One Saver Rewards Card, if you're kind of into dining and going out, that could be a big one. The Quicksilver Card is going to get you 1.5x back on everything if you prefer that and don't want to have to, be locked into set multipliers. And then Discover It Cash, also pretty good as well. That's going to be a rotating quarterly category card. But the cool thing, again, is all of these cards on the list are cards that people in the game still use to this day getting started. So again, you really just want to look around and see what multipliers work best for you. You have a ton of a wide range of options overall. So I would say just find the one that kind of transitions us into the strategy piece of again, I would just pick one. I wouldn't go overboard to start, but there are some things you can even do before this point. So if we take a look at this, first thing, if you're in high school, you're about to graduate, you could even say, hey, can I be added as an authorized user to one of my parents' cards? I've got a full video on authorized users that will be down below for you. That's just basically a cheat code, shortcut way to inherit their credit history from one of their accounts that they add you to. I would start out with the student card at 18 if it's possible for you, especially if you can get someone to co-sign. Again, it's not that big of a commitment because you're not getting for the co-signer, because you're not offering you that much of a credit limit. Definitely go with a cashback card to start, no annual fee. And again, the reason you don't want to go all out is because there's another component of this, whether you're watching this because you think you might go hard into the credit card game and get a ton of cards, ton of cash back, and just go out like that. The main thing here is that, there's still a learning curve, right? So you can get one card, you can learn how the multipliers work, you can learn the good credit habits, you can build the credit score, and then use that card for about a year. And after a year, you should actually be able to get the majority of the no annual fee cashback cards that all of us talk about. So you could get into Chase. That's a great place to start. Freedom Flex, Freedom Unlimited, City, things like that. I'm not going to get too much into it now, but if you're going to go hard in the game, there is an order of operations that works best for yielding values. You definitely don't want to sign up for every single student card right off the jump. One, and that authorized user should be plenty to get you jump started into the game. So overall, that's kind of the recommendation for students. And, happy graduation, of course. So you guys like this one, drop me a thumbs up down below. If you found it particularly interesting, of course, consider subscribing to the channel, posting content just like this every Monday, Wednesday, or Friday. Of course, back here every Sunday with all the news you can use in the week that was in credit and finance. Question for you guys is let me know which some of the kind of student cards that you're into down below. Again, all the major issuers have them nowadays, so let me know which ones you've kind of used and which ones you've held on to if you're kind of a veteran in the game. Make some recommendations to the young folks out there if you will. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this one. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you very soon in the next one.